Hey guys, happy Sunday afternoon. I'm just going to do a quick tutorial via video rather than trying to email back and forth. I think this will just be easier and a little more understandable as to what's expected in an argument body paragraph. And I'm going to show you what Tanner did and talk about why it was incorrect, and then give you a way that you can fix it and show you an example so that as you're helping Tanner at home, you know what to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the outline. This is actually in Tanner's class notes in his notebook. He can get to this through ClassLink. He just clicks class notes and we take notes. This is where his vocab is also located. So this is where he needs to be studying for his vocab. The lessons are all here. The most recent one he took was right here, Wordly Wise, lesson 4. We're going to be getting the next one this week, so you know where to look for it to help Tanner study. So for class notes, so in the argument plan, we have 4 paragraphs. This is our introduction paragraph, and these are the 3 things that need to be in an introduction paragraph. A hook, introduce the argument, which is just introducing both sides. You do not tell me what side you are on until you get here, the claim. Okay, the claim, you tell me what you believe. And in this case, Tanner believes that college athletes should be paid. So that's what he said here. Now, in our body paragraphs, they're exactly the same, but we have 2 of them. And in an advanced class, it is a little more complex. So you start off with a transition and reason, 1 sentence. So for starters, I believe college athletes should be paid because this is like their full-time job or something like that, right? And then in the advanced class, what we do is we immediately bring up what the other side would say to your reason. So pretend that Tanner's in court and he goes to the lawyer and he says, I believe athletes should be paid because it's their full-time job. What would the opposing side say to this reason? In 1 sentence, we put that here. And the reason why is because in 8th grade, in an advanced class, we really try to understand that the best way to prove your side right is simultaneously proving the other side wrong. So you have to mention the other side. So then what you're going to do is you're going to give your evidence. Now in the plan, you give the title and paragraph number because this is just a guide. We're not really writing the quote out here. So you're just giving title and paragraph number. And then after that, you'll explain in at least 5 sentences, and you refer back to the counterclaim. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. Now, on the FSA rubric, okay, let me pull that up really quickly before we go on. This is actually posted in the modules for the students. They know where it is. This is from FSA. This is not Ms. Harrison. This is from FSA. So for argument, if we're focused on the evidence and elaboration, to get a score 4 in this category, a score 3 in this category, and even a score 2 in this category, they have to integrate evidence, which means they have to have evidence in the same paragraph, but from different sources, right? So no matter how well it is written, if the paragraph doesn't integrate for evidence and elaboration, you have to give it a 1 because it has absent evidence. And the students even have one of these rubrics on their desk. They are very familiar with this rubric, and we talk about all the time the purpose and the point of integration. So that's why when we get to this one, you give evidence, but it's going to be from another source. So if Tanner put source 1 here, you can't put source 1 here. It has to be like source 2 or 3. Then you'll explain again. Again, you want to refer back to the counterclaim, and then you give a conclusion sentence. And then you do the same thing, but just with a different reason for this paragraph. And then you have your conclusion paragraph, which is very simple. All right, so now let's bring up the body paragraph. So for Tanner, I'm going to read you what he wrote in his second body paragraph, because we did the first one and we revised the first one, and I put Tanner in a breakout room and I worked with him all by himself on the first one. He still had some issues in the same place I'm going to show you here, but this is his second body paragraph. So he says, in addition to unpopular sports gaining popularity, which was his first reason, so I'm glad he mentioned that, college athletes should be paid because they take a lot of risk playing each game. So he is trying to prove that they should be paid because they take a lot of risk each game. Now, so that's our number 3. Our number 7 is to bring up the other side. So what would other people say to this reason? People argue that college athletes don't take a lot of risk when playing each game. Simple, but I'll take it, right? He mentioned the word risks, and which was his key reason. So he mentioned it here, and it's what the other side would say to that. So his number 7 is fine. His evidence right here, however, according to should college athletes be paid, it states, and then he states it correctly. So he does number 4 correctly. Now, what I will say is that I probably would have found something a little stronger, but hey, I'll take it because it is on track. And as long as he explains it well, then I have no problems, right? So let's see how he explains it. Yes, some jobs can put you at risk. However, playing sports doesn't provide as much risk. So it's almost like he's proving the counterclaim right instead of wrong here. It's like he's taken the opposite side. And I'll show you what he should have done in just a minute. Playing football can help you improve your muscles and make you build up strength. Jobs like construction working, you can fall and kill yourself or permanently damage you. Playing football doesn't provide risk because if you get injured, it won't be as bad as if an injury as falling off a building. So we're actually trying to prove the opposite here because he's proving that college athletes take a lot of risk, but right here he's showing that they're not really taking very many risks. So again, he's proving the other side correct here. So what we really need to do is strengthen this elaboration, which every time Tanner writes a paragraph, this is the problem we fall into. He does everything else right, but his explanation is where he struggles. And partially because he has to make inferences and come up with some logical explanation, not what is necessarily in the text. So when you explain, it's kind of like your own thoughts about it and why your thought are like saying in your thoughts why the quote is right and the counterclaim is wrong kind of thing. Okay. And then he gives an internal transition, which is good. And then he gives another quote, but here's the problem. It's from the same source. And because it's from the same source, he is not integrating, which technically meant he should have gotten a 1, but I wasn't going to put a 25 in the grade book, so I gave him a 50, okay? He has to integrate, so he has to find a quote from another source. And if he can't find a quote from another source, he has to get creative and think about what the other source is saying and how can he maneuver it to help him prove his point, or he has to choose a different reason because this is the rubric FSA gives us and we have to integrate. All right, so give me 1 second. So then he gives us those college athletes put their body at permanent risk of damage. Again, it's a good quote. It can prove a point, but it's from the same source. So we have to make sure that it's from a different source. And then his explain, again, has nothing to do with putting his body at risk. All he talks about is receiving money, right? It doesn't really talk about risk and why risk should be the reason why they get the money. So let me show you how I would have fixed this, or how I would fix this, right? So I kept Tanner's same introduction, or same transition and reason, his topic sentence, right? In addition to unpopular sports gaining popularity, college athletes should be paid because they take a lot of risk playing each game, because that was fine. His counterclaim was fine, so I kept it. I even kept his quote, though I think it could be a little stronger. Like I said, it works if you explain it correctly, so I kept his quote. Now, let me actually make this a different color so that I can make the explain. So this is how I would have explained. So yes, while its limp may seem like no big deal, it really is. An injury on the job that can cause you to limp for the rest of your life is serious. So when I say here, refer back to the counterclaim, right here, refer back to the counterclaim in your explain, you want to address it. So I am addressing the counterclaim right here, and I am acknowledging it, but then I'm telling you that it's wrong. And then I'm going to prove here why it's wrong, which then will prove my point that they should be paid, right? So I would say an injury on the job that can cause you to limp for the rest of your life is serious. Other jobs don't have as much risk involved. If a teacher were to get hurt at school or a doctor were to get hurt at the hospital, they probably wouldn't be impacted long term like an athlete. So while they're technically in college, they put so much time into it that it's practically their jobs, and they are putting themselves in high risk situations that could potentially have life altering repercussions, and therefore they need to be paid. So this is how I would have changed his explanation to prove the counterclaim wrong, right? Addressing it in the first sentence, and then go on to explain. Okay, outside thoughts. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the text. Outside thoughts, explaining why the counterclaim is essentially wrong, and therefore proving my point, right? That's why it's so important that the counterclaim here is exactly opposite of the reason, which it is. Like I said, he did that right. Okay. So it's exactly opposite of his reason. So here's what I would have Tanner do to fix it and to get better credit. He can type this up and I can let this be his. That's completely fine. Okay, just as an example, but he needs to find another quote from another source. So he can't find it from should college athletes be paid. He has to find it from another source. And then it needs to be about putting their bodies at risk, right? And then he needs to explain in 5 or more sentences, okay? Um, addressing the counterclaim and then proving the counterclaim wrong, essentially. So that's what I'm looking for. Now, I gave you an example of another student's in the email that I sent you, so you can also look back at that as well. And he always has these to refer back to. There isn't necessarily a paragraph in here to refer back to, but there is other plans that he can use to look at. Okay. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I will print the rubric and send it home for you. I can't guarantee that I can have lessons well in advance every week for you, because every week my lessons are um, based on what the students are showing me. And so I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. But if I see that, hey, the students are struggling in this area of writing, then my next day I will address that issue. But I can do my best to have other things sent home for you as requested in the email that you sent me. So if you have any other questions, please let me know and I will be happy to help. Have a good day.